Let us return our attention to this time and place and come back easily and gently, maybe feeling the chair supporting you, the breeze on your face, maybe doing a community cough. And let us know that the moments we spend in meditation, the results are just more clarity of mind, more focus, greater effectiveness. It lowers our blood pressure. And so anytime we can take a few minutes during the day, it helps us immensely. Amen. Let us say our statement of peace. We, the people of Unity of the Villages, join Unity Worldwide Ministries in the stand for peace. Unity stands for peace. Unity stands for love. Unity stands for forgiveness. We call ourselves higher up in consciousness to be that positive change right here, right now. Our prayer is for self-realization, God-realization. Together from our divine essence, we command all nations, their leaders, and their people to turn to God by whatever the name, for guidance to pursue peace, for this is what honors the God of all faith traditions. Unity stands for peace in our lifetime. Amen. And the prayer for our permanent spiritual home. Spirit, we give thanks for the perfect divine right outcome for the Fruitland Park UCC property to be the permanent spiritual home for Unity of the Villages spiritual community. And so it is. Amen. All right, and I believe now we have our new member ceremony. And so if the new members who are joining today come forward. I'm not sure if Kurt and Kathy are actually here. I don't see them. Oh, there you are. Great. All right. So we have here, actually you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Rhonda Hall.
Jim Hall. Angela Green.
And then, did you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kathy Morgan.
Okay.
I'm Kurt Morgan.
All right. So, Wendell Bean has pretty much a PhD in theology. It's in the mysteries of religion or comparative religion. So, of course, I was not going to make Wendell Bean come to the Unity Basics. But Rosemary did not know he had a PhD in comparative religion, mysteries of religion. So she told Wendell Bean he had to come to Unity Basics. So Wendell Bean really entertained all of us in both the classes and the ice cream with ministers. And I am proud that after a couple years, he's decided to join us. Wendell Bean, thank you. Ray, Jim Carter, thank you. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And these guys are from Massachusetts, so I mean, the people from Massachusetts, they're starting to outnumber us. And so, membership in Unity, it depends on different churches. I believe in making it fairly easy. Some people are just here for a short period of time. Some people want to anchor themselves in the Unity beliefs and a way of life, and they stay for a lifetime. So it's up to you how you want to participate. And let's see, what else do we want to say? And if you haven't found a place to volunteer, I know some of you already have, but there always is a little blue booklet for volunteerism. So we applaud you, and we would like to sing a song to you right now. I behold the Christ in you, here the light of God I see. I can see a great peace too, I can see you whole and free. I behold the Christ in you. I can see you as you walk. I see this in all you do. I can see this as you talk. I behold God's love expressed. I can see you filled with power. I can see you ever blessed. See Christ in you hour by hour. I behold the Christ in you. I can see that perfect one, led by God in all you do. I can see God's work is done. stuff out of the way. Alrighty. Well, I want to remember to thank, again, the Earth Care team for last week's service. And Donna Gould and Steve were just on the same key and sounded so beautiful, so really appreciate that. Yeah. I want to thank all the bookstore people today. There's a short sale, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Overstock.
Overstock, okay. And then Thomas T. set up all our tables and chairs after we cleaned. We got the carpets cleaned. So if you're feeling a little shaky today, use one of those lids on your coffee cup. So it stays clean for at least 2 weeks. I want to thank Pat and Joni for taking care of our money and for all the people who are willing to count our love offerings after service, because they sacrifice fellowship time, so we appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody who brought stuff for the collection Sunday. We had a lot, so thank you. The people in the greater community appreciate that. And our building and our board had a long conference call this week. We did hear a reply from our friends at UCC. And we'll be hammering out a reply this week, and then our board president, Pat Bennett, will update you next Sunday. And I think that's about it. All right. And then we've done it a few times, but just remember to sit in your neighborhoods. Okay. All right, here it is. This is the little funny from Steve Camp. I have been in many places, but I've never been in cahoots. Apparently, you can't go there alone. You have to be in cahoots with someone. I've also never been incognito. I hear no one recognizes you there. I have, however, been insane. They don't have an airport there. You have to be driven there. I've made several trips there thanks to my children, friends, family, and work. I would like to go to conclusions, but you have to jump, and I'm not too much on physical activity anymore. I have been in doubt. This is a sad place to go, and I try not to visit there too often. I've been inflexible, but only when it's very important to stand firm. Sometimes I'm incapable, and I go there more often as I get older. One of my favorite places to be is in suspense. It really gets the adrenaline flowing and pumps up the old heart. I have been incontinent, but I don't remember what country I was in. All right, so today we're going to take a little look at will. And Tana made this image that's coming up. Is that correct? Oh, no image. Okay. All right. You know, when you work with these creative people, you think you're communicating, but not really. You know what I mean? Okay. So the image that I was going to point to was, these 12 powers. If you're new to Unity, we study one every month. And so in January, we started with faith, and then we did its counterpart in February, imagination. And so they're both located in the top of the brain, which is why we wanted the image up there. And then in March, we studied understanding, and then its complement is will, both, again, in the center of the brain. So we'll skip this part on the diagram. We're flexible here. And so the reason we study these, and we study them in pairs, is they're located in our chakra systems. And our chakras, as you know, are the energy systems. And so we can actually build our spiritual power, our spiritual tools, or spiritual technology, if we, even for a few minutes a day, bring these powers to mind and affirm them in our energy centers. And so how would that matter if we did it? Well, if we did it, what happens is we become more solid in the truth of who we are. We become strengthened in that truth. We weather the storms in life easier without succumbing to and without getting all caught up in the whirlwind of emotional trauma and turmoil. So as these powers become stronger in us, we can have the ability to stand in peace no matter what's happening. So Charles Fillmore, in his book 12 Powers, entitles the chapter on will as "The Will is the Man." He explains that that caption is quoted from an ancient metaphysical teaching. The origin was lost in antiquity. But the idea of it is that the will is only possible through the development of the mind that leads to a fully evolved, developed person. So the will is the person. The will is really what makes a person, isn't it? I mean, when you think about the people you complain about, it's because their will is not expressing as you think they should be expressing their will. And this power moves all the other powers. This power of will activates all the other powers. And will is really our ability to feel willingness. You know, when we listen, our will is always moving us toward spirit, toward good. And sometimes we ignore our spiritual power of will. When we forget to listen to our soul, what our soul is trying to express through our will, we get off track. So maybe we only listen to the facts. Maybe we listen only to what other people think we should be doing. And sometimes we just want to take the easy course out of it, don't we? Anybody ever want to do that? Just take the easy path? Yeah. And that's the nature of our humanity. So when we're not in alignment with our highest true essence, we might be motivated by our ego. And there's many stories in the Bible about willingness. Now, Saul was motivated by ego and not in alignment with God's plan. He was in the business of persecution. And then when he aligned his will with God's will, he had a radical transformation. He went about the work of spirit. He changed his business to conversion, and of course had that name changed to Paul. So when we look at life today, we can see clear examples of motivations by willfulness or the ego, motivations by sheer desire. So salary differentials in companies is one thing we could look at. Fraudulent practices is another. And likewise, we can see examples of great willingness of people who are really listening to spirit. You know, all the reporters around the globe willing to put themselves in harm's way to get the truth out into the open. I mean, I just have a great respect for those people. And willingness is how great changes for the good happen. So we're at the beginning days of Passover, and we can think about how the Egyptians willfully enslaved the Jews. And finally, when that 10th plague came, like Elin said, they just couldn't take it anymore. The firstborn was killed. The firstborn of all their animals were killed. And so finally, the Pharaoh relented and set them free. Now, Moses was appointed to lead them out, right, of Egypt into the Promised Land. And as Elin said, you know, the Israelites were passed over. So now Moses, he didn't study the 12 powers. And so he wasn't a confident chap. And when he revealed his nervousness about leading the Israelites out of Egypt to the Promised Land, God said, don't worry, I'm going to send Aaron. Aaron's going to help you. So Moses was then ready to execute his will. And will really is the executive power of our mind. It's what we give permission to act. And remember, this faculty, this power of will, it's what activates all the other spiritual powers. So we give ourselves permission to move our consciousness in a certain direction. So sometimes there's confusion between willingness and willfulness. Now, willfulness is when someone acts out of pure determination and they're forceful about their will. And willingness is when we're aligned with spirit. And this is really the only correct way to use our will. This is when our consciousness is properly aligned and our will then is going to be in correct alignment. Now, the hard part about willingness is not having our own way, isn't it? I mean, we're always asking from a higher source, what's mine to do? And then this is the really hard part. We have to wait for the universe to respond. And don't we just hate that part? The waiting. I mean, we want it now. Doesn't Spirit know we're on an immediate gratification track on this earth plane? We ought to be able to just ask Siri or Google it and get the answer. So we have to train ourselves to wait and to listen. And when we do this, when we actually train ourselves to listen, we find that our will is really moving toward Spirit, toward God, toward expressing more of God through us. And one of the advantages of this, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, maybe younger in their lives, I know I certainly have, is it keeps us from spinning our wheels, from misusing our energy, from going in all different directions, whereas if we had just taken the time to listen, we could have just conserved our energy, and then when the paths open, when everything was in the flow, sometimes the universe has to move things around till it's a direct target. Anybody ever done that? Wasted time? Yeah, going all different directions. So the universe has the overall design. Is that correct? Yeah. And y'all can probably remember, if you didn't have teenagers, observing teenagers, this is kind of like you had the knowledge that they shouldn't do a certain thing or go a certain place or hang with a certain kid, but you just kind of have to step back, let them make their mistakes, and learn. Anybody have that experience? Exactly. Yeah. And so it's just like we're the universe's kids. The universe is saying, if you just kind of wait on me and listen, I can make it real easy for you. But we go, no, we're going to do it our own way. My ego says, I'm going to do something else. So this is why we study understanding the greater plan for our lives before will. And you can always see healthy functioning of the will. It's always towards something beneficial for all, not just the person, but everything. And versus the unhealthy functioning of the will, like the Ponzi schemes. Remember those? Yeah. Anybody awake out there? Okay. So this is an important part. God's will is always greater than our willingness to receive God's good. Let's say it again. Let's hear it again. God's will for us is always greater than our willingness to receive God's good. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. So the challenge, and I think it's still in the consciousness here of early training in many religions, is people think that, and they still hold this thought, that God is a punishing God. And a lot of religions still hold that. And this is a totally, totally false belief. And I think that Jesus tried to correct those misconceptions through teachings in the New Testament. However, it's going to take a while. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, writes, "Sin, sickness, suffering, punishment are not of God. These occur because of broken law. The law is good and the law always works." So, Jesus the Christ demonstrated both sides of will for us in the Garden of Gethsemane. If you remember, he said, "Take this cup from me, if you can." Demonstrating that willfulness of his human self, of kind of, I'd rather not go through this. I'd rather get rid of this challenge. So he was saying, come on, take this. If I can be spared, I'd rather not do it. And that's with us too. We don't always have the thought first that we're always blessed by the challenges. But the challenges are how we grow, how we evolve. Are always our first, usually our first, at least it's mine anyway, when a challenge comes, I'm like, oh, not this. I don't want this. Or if we haven't been open to receiving the message the first time, many of us can say, oh, not this again. So then, after he said, "Take this cup from me," he turned right around and said, "My will, not my will, but thy will." And then immediately he felt an angel strengthening him. And this is really a magnificent demonstration from our older brother here on meeting the difficulties and being willful and then moving right into willingness. So the sooner we accept our difficulties or our challenges, the sooner we pass through them. And the sooner the blessing, whatever it is bestowed on us. So this was a great example of how to be victorious over any challenge, anything that we box ourselves in with. So it can be now challenging to change our minds, can it not? Anybody ever had a trouble changing your mind? Yeah. So psychologists give us a method, and they say, change the cue to your habit, and then if you change the cue, you will change. So if you usually come home and the first thing you do is flop in your TV watching chair and press the remote, you change the cue. When you come home, you pour yourself a glass of water and you sit in a different place. Maybe you pick up a book. Maybe you just sit out there and enjoy nature, or just sit and be. So we change our life by changing our habits, and we change our habits by changing those little cues. Upside down page. So, traveling the journey from willfulness to willingness is a true adventure. But it is what a life committed to evolving in consciousness is all about. And if we're here to really help the planet, I don't know, some of you are saying, oh, I don't know why I'm still here, I don't know why I'm still here. Well, your consciousness is helping evolve the planet. So as truth students, especially the ones taking the work, they can attest to that. It's an adventure in freedom. It's true freedom because we let go of any holds or any beliefs or any of the ways we have boxed ourselves in. But the stipulation is we have to be willing to do the work to be free. Now, it was too much for Moses. Moses never made it in the Promised Land. He would have had to change too much. It was too much for him to change it. It was a lot of work. He was 900 years old, isn't that a fact? Maybe it was just too much. Aaron, on the other hand, was ready. Aaron and Caleb, when they went into the Promised Land, they caught the vision right away. They surveyed it. It was a match to their vibration, so they went on in. They lived in the Promised Land. Now, what about us? Are we living each day in the Promised Land? So talking to the power of will and using it helps us do just that. We wake up our will. We ask it. We make it work for us. We have to give our will time to respond and then execute it in the direction it guides us. Hopefully nobody's saying, oh yeah, I got that guidance, but I didn't follow it. I mean, we're all too old for that. Aren't we? I mean, that's what you do in your 20s and your 30s, and you don't do that anymore. So, and remember, it's your will you want to wake up, not your best friend or your spouse's. We're just in charge of our own little world here. And remember Charles Fillmore's words, will makes the person. Now, in closing, this is a great example. Germany changed its will. They willed to build a nuclear reactor. They built it. And then there was a nuclear accident in Japan. Even though they had already built it, they went back to the drawing board. They changed their mind. They looked at their values. They must have asked themselves, like, is this something we really want that could pollute our country for very, very many years, generations? They must have had discussions. Most likely they said, some people said, hey, we already built it. Hey, we already spent millions on it. We already allocated the land. We can't change our work now. I'm sure somebody said, we just can't turn back. But then somebody must have asked a smarter question. They must have said, what's best for the future of our country? And what they did, hopefully we have that slide. She's listened to this message. They made a playground of it. The nuclear reactor is a playground. This is a ride now. That's the whole playground. That was the nuclear reactor. And then that part on the top there is you can hook on there and you can spin around. So they made this nuclear reactor, yeah, there's the ride, into a playground. And now they're leading the world in clean energy, and they may serve as the global model for clean energy. So wow. So what's best for your country, your life? How willing are you to change your thinking from not my will, but thy will? How willing are you to experience more good in your life than you could possibly imagine? And we've got a Dream It workshop coming next Sunday. What would our lives be like if we truly trusted? Let us wake up to our will. Let us listen to our will. Let thy will, not my will, be done. Namaste. Yeah, that looks like a good ride, doesn't it? All right, as we get ready to circulate and increase our inflow, the only way to do that is keep it circulating in the outflow. So let us take our tithes, our blessings, our love offerings in our hands, and very consciously let us say our affirmation, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful.
Mr. Weston?
Oh, yes.
John's supposed to be on the other side, you know?
Ah,
All right.
everybody sing, everybody, y'all know it, I don't know it yet, y'all know it. I see trees of green, red roses too.